thinking especially about a career change or even just leaving an organization, what do I have to lose by doing this? And then the second one, the flip of that, what do I have to gain?
Yeah.
What's going to open up for me?
Yeah.
Some people I've spoken to that say, I've never been fired up by my work. And that's so telling. They say, I don't like what I'm doing, or I don't like where I'm doing it, but help me. I don't know where to start, and I don't know what kind of plan I need to put together to find something that's a better fit for me.
Hey, and welcome to the Living Richly podcast. So glad that you could join us again this week. This is episode 99.
That means only one more, and you know where we are.
No.
100.
Oh, yeah. No, we are. I did know that.
You did know that.
No, we are going to be 100 episodes next week, and so excited. It's going to be a great celebration. Want to encourage you. Hey, this episode is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Episode 100 is going to be amazing as well. So we want to encourage you to check it out. But so glad that you've joined us again. We are really excited about having our special guest here today. Michelle Schafer is with us. Michelle is a career coach and has had all kinds of incredible conversations with people who are learning how to transition from one role to another. Part of what we've talked about often in the Living Richly message
all the time
is you recognize that if you feel stuck in where you are, you don't have to stay that way.
That's right.
And part of living your best life is finding the things that you love to do and experiencing those in play, but also in work. And we're going to have some conversations around that as well. So welcome, Michelle. So great to have you here with us today.
So excited to be here with both of you.
Yeah, this is so great. I mean, we're all connected on social media.
Yeah,
we can attest to your expertise in this area and how you're helping so many people find their way. As Rob was saying, people spend 40, 50 hours a week on the job. Life is too short to be unhappy.
Exactly.
And yet so many people are unhappy in their job. We thought maybe tell us a little bit about the current landscape. I mean, COVID, things were already a little confused before that. Then COVID showed up, said, hold my beer, and changed the game. But what are some of the trends you're seeing? And then we're going to get into some questions to help our listeners kind of reevaluate where they're at and perhaps if a change is needed for them.
For sure. I mean, I think that's a great way to lead in, because the one great thing that came out of the pandemic was people actually hit the pause button where they weren't hitting the pause button before. So, we had all this time, we were at home, we weren't really seeing people. So people started to reflect. And one of the things that they were reflecting on was their career. They were thinking about what they were doing and where they were doing it. And that's where some of these feelings of not feeling fulfilled, really realizing those things. They probably were aware of these things for a while, but the pandemic really was a good, lightning bolt to really bring all of those reflections forward.
I know that, again, and you had people literally all around that were dying, and exactly would be that is I don't know how much time I have left. Is this what I want to be doing with my time?
Exactly.
Right? So what were some of the trends that you saw?
So a few of the things that started happening when people were realizing, hey, I'm not really liking what I'm doing or where I'm doing it. So there was a trend called the Great Resignation, where we saw en masse, people were leaving, people were exploring, they were trying to leave and go somewhere else. And that really created a lot of shift and transition in the job market. But then that trend was followed up very quickly with a trend that maybe didn't get as much airplay called rage apply, where some people were so deeply unhappy, they were just firing off resumes all over the place, which is where that name came from.
Right.
They were angry and they just wanted to get out. And so they were just sending resumes all over the place.
They didn't necessarily want the job they were applying for, but it was an act of saying, I want something's got to shift.
And I remember working with some clients and in that season, they were like, we put out a position like for a driver and we get 700 applications.
Oh, exactly.
And 680 of them had zero qualifications as a driver.
Like, I know.
What is this? Yeah.
But I mean, that wasn't a really great strategy, just fire firing off resumes everywhere because people didn't have a target. They were just trying to get out. So the one thing that trend signaled was there's a lot of people who want something different. But then the big question was, well, what do you want? And that's where when I talk to people and they come to me, they say, I don't like what I'm doing, or I don't like where I'm doing it, but help me. I don't know where to start, and I don't know what kind of plan I need to put together to find something that's a better fit for me.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of planning to be able to find something new.
So we're going to talk through a bunch of those areas and kind of cover them. But maybe let's just take a step back. How the hell did you get there? How did you get to what's the journey towards becoming a career coach? What's a bit of your own experience in the workforce?
Oh, thanks. That's a great question. I mean, I love hearing the stories of other people. Yeah. I have my own story too. So my career started in financial services, morphed to not-for-profit. And if you asked me about 25 years ago, would I have been a coach? I would have said, hell no. Like that wouldn't have been something.
Hell no, I won't go. Yeah.
No, exactly. It wouldn't have been on my radar at all. But I've experienced two significant restructures. And so both of those restructurings, when I lost my job, precipitated the need to find something new. And I was in the same boat as my clients, not knowing what that would be. So I left financial services after 18 years. That was my first job out of high school and not knowing where to go, and had to reinvent myself into something new. I knew I wanted to get into not-for-profit. So I moved into that direction, did a lot of exploration. But when I was in not-for-profit, I also lost my job. And so a really good coaching friend of mine, just one of my best friends who is a coach, planted the seed before I was let go the second time. And she said, I never understood why you didn't do this as a career. And at the time, the timing wasn't right. But then when I lost my job the second time, I felt like that's the universe telling me to explore that.
That's amazing.
And so I started talking to people, networking with coaches, and the rest was history. I realized that this was a calling of mine, and I really wanted to help other clients who were in a similar situation to me.
Sounds, I mean, the story reminds me very much so of you coming to me back in the day after you were transitioning out of your former career. And you were, do you know anybody who's hiring? And what did I ask you? My question was, have you ever thought of coaching? Often takes, but often isn't that what, like we're the universe has a funny way, an interesting way of nudging us along. Sometimes even it feels like against our will.
Sometimes it is, but those seeds are planted for good reason. Like I look at career exploration kind of like a tomato plant. Like anybody who's had a garden knows you plant the seed, right? But then you have to wait. There's timing. You have to create the right conditions for something to grow and thrive. And that's oftentimes how it works with our careers. We can have seeds planted. Maybe the timing isn't right. Maybe we need to do something about it. But eventually those seeds can really take root and something beautiful can grow from that.
Yeah. What were some of the key lessons you learned during that season of transition where you were now, okay, I think I'm finding my way forward, but that's really nerve-wracking for a lot of people to go from security to not security to clear what I'm doing today to what I'm not. So what were some of the key lessons that landed for you during that time?
There are a few things. I mean, one is the importance of having a plan. And I recognized the first time I lost my job, I just started looking for work and I had no idea what I was looking for. I had no idea what to do. Yeah. And so having a plan that involves, looking online, talking to other people, doing a lot of networking was a big learning of mine. The other was the importance of asking for help and being open to receiving help. Like that idea of, it takes a village to do anything these days. Looking for work is one of those things. And so when you engage with your own network of support and people that are there to cheer you on, to encourage you, sometimes it's even just to receive all of your frustration over, applying for a job and not getting it. It's really important to engage those people in your circle.
We talk so much on the podcast in hundreds because we had 98.
No, we're at 99. We're 99.
99. Sorry, 99.
Plus one, and we did the math already. Plus one, we get to 100.
Right. Yeah.
So Rob one more.
Rob math. So in dozens of episodes,
There you go.
We talk about the power of community and the importance of community. And I think, you could talk about maybe the planning before your turbulence. Like if we wait until crisis to start to set ourselves up with some of this. And that's why I think it's so important to today start finding your community, your tribe.
Absolutely.
Right? Today start figuring out what matters to you.
Yes.
Because then you're ready, so you're not reacting in those moments.
Well, and I mean, the way our careers oftentimes work is they just go. Like, it's very rare that we take that step back and hit that pause button that I mentioned before, you know, and reflect on what's important to me. What kind of organization do I want to be part of? And it's not until things happen that all of a sudden it calls all of that into question. So there's so much that we can do beforehand and not just let, like a friend say, oh, like go and apply for this job because it's a great fit. Or, like you just kind of move from one to the next. Be very intentional about your career moves, and that's a path to fulfillment.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it reminds me of when, so similar to you, what prompted me to become a coach is losing a job that I was in, and that was a reason.
Yes.
Wasn't performing, but the company got restructured. I was out and young family, whatever. And everyone's telling me, go find a job. So I've put out resumes, which I had never done actually until this. I'd never had to till this point, and got 3 interviews immediately, like pretty quickly and within a week of each other. And I went to each and every one of them. And in every case, they wanted to hire me, but I wasn't excited about working for them.
Oh, interesting.
What it was triggering for me was what I recognized is there was a measure of excitement, but it helped me clarify that, no, I don't actually think I would enjoy working in this role, but I know that I can help a leader like you. What I recognized is that these owners, these leaders had struggles, had pain, were looking to bring in staff to help address it. And that actually got me on the path of becoming a business coach, right? This is part of, so sometimes even without a plan, I think when you're in motion and you take steps, the way can become a bit more clear. But I think it's better to think it through than to kind of go at it. We don't, go at it without any kind of sense of.
Absolutely. I mean, looking for work without any plan it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Now, I've never actually done that, but I imagine it would be pretty frustrating.
It's a saying for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for people who are, they're in roles that maybe they're not fulfilled with, even before they start looking for something else, there's a step that they can take first, which is talk to your leader. If you haven't already done that, engage your leader in a conversation about, well, here's the things that really energize me. Here's the opportunities I see I'd like to take advantage of. Or maybe it's a conversation about workload and reprioritizing things. Like, try to make things work where you are. And then as a next step, then you can start planning and reflecting on, what's the work that really does give you energy? What's the kind of work that maybe you're known for, but it saps your energy now? Nobody wants a job where they're doing stuff that saps their energy. But also, like to your point, Eric, think very seriously about the kind of organization you want to be part of. Like, what's the best organization you've ever worked for? What was their mandate? What were their values? What kind of leaders were employed? What kind of team members, to make sure that your next step can be really aligned? And then also think about your deal breakers. I call those non-negotiables, but for a lot of people, especially since the pandemic, location has become a big non-negotiable. They either want to be in the office or they don't want to be in the office, or maybe they want the flexibility to have a bit of both. And people are turning down really great opportunities, even because of that non-negotiable, because it can't be honored. So, the more that we reflect on what's important to us, then we can be very intentional about seeking out those opportunities.
So I love that, because that's in alignment with the entire Living Richly message. Is the vast majority of people aren't clear on who they are. They aren't clear on what they stand for. Yeah. And so they drift. They just coast through life. Exactly. And every now and then they bump into happiness or bump into fulfillment. But how can you truly experience more happiness and fulfillment unless you get clear on what are my non-negotiables, whether that be at play in your personal life or professionally. And again, often our emphasis, we work with, as you know, we work with business leaders, executive leaders, large organizations, small. And a lot of our leaders, their challenge is they put too much energy into the business and not enough energy in their life. So that's often where our conversations are about continue to build a successful business, but build a successful life. But if you're unhappy on the job, that is going to weigh you down. When I remember talking to one guy who worked for the federal government. I'm not going to say which department, not going to name him, but he's young. I think he was at the time about 17 years away from retirement.
Oh, wow.
And when I was talking to him, this was probably 5 years ago, he told me he's miserable. He hates his job, doesn't find it fulfilling at all.
Common story.
And I'm like, so I asked him, so why are you there? Like, why do you stay? He goes,
Good question.
My pension. And I'm like, so you're going to be miserable for the next 17 years.
It's a long time.
That's a long time. Like the cost of that misery is not worth any pension as far as I'm concerned. Right? And I loved how you mentioned talk to your leader first.
Yeah. Yes. Right? Yeah. Explore those things. I mean, it's interesting, because, I have people coming to me that, to your point, they're recognizing that life is too short. And if I'm unhappy now, what is that going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 17 years?
Yeah, right.
So then it begs the question, well, what can I do now to be able to bring more of that fulfillment into my life? And Rob, you mentioned it earlier, like some people, they feel like they might be stuck and we have choices. There are options. It's just a matter of figuring out what those options are and then putting together a plan to be able to suss them out.
So we talked in our last episode, we did a show all around how to have difficult conversations, how to prepare for them, what to do during, what to do afterwards. It was, I think really, I certainly learned some stuff in the episode that you clearly needed to learn.
I'm still unpacking that. Give me some time.
Exactly.
Go easy on me. I'm learning.
You've got someone who is unhappy, and you mentioned a few minutes ago, go to your supervisor, go to your leader, talk about the things that give you energy. How do you figure out what those are? What are some kind of real practical ways that somebody can prepare for that conversation and lay out? How do I figure out what gives me energy, what doesn't? Nothing gives me energy in my job, right? That's what some will be like. There's nothing. Red flag. Right? Yeah. So what advice would you have as to what are some ways they can figure that out?
For sure. A lot of those clues are maybe not even in what we're doing today, but they could be in things that we've done in the past. So I always encourage people to, certainly look at what fires you up today? So if you, led this large project and you loved, managing all of the deliverables and creating the project plan and following up with people, then that's the source of your energy. Right. That's a big clue. But for some people, the source of what gave them energy isn't in what they're doing today, but it's what they did in their last job or 5 jobs ago. It could even be in their volunteer work. There might be things that they're doing, kind of off on the side outside of work that they really enjoy doing. So, it takes some reflection, but really thinking about, okay, well, when was the last time I was fired up about the work that I was doing? And then more specifically, what was I doing that got me all fired up? What elements of that really give me energy? And those are the things that you want to bring to your leader to be able to see what opportunities are there for me to engage in that kind of work. And I always call it information for the bank, how a leader is going to respond. Yeah. So if a leader is very supportive, maybe gives you cross-training opportunities, introduces you to other people in the organization to get some new experience, that's information for the bank that, hey, maybe this is the right place for me. There's some career progression here. But if a leader either A, doesn't want to have the conversation, or B, is very vague or non-committal or commits and doesn't deliver, then I call that information for the bank, for the reason that that might be, kind of the starting point of you wanting to do something different. And for some people, it's the starting point to perhaps leave the organization and find something else.
We talk so much on the show about controlling your controllables. In other words, control what you can control, put your best energy there as opposed to trying to control what you can't control. To your point, you can't control what your boss or how your manager, supervisor is going to respond, even if they don't respond the way you'd hoped, which is in a support. Let's face it, people don't quit jobs, they quit their manager.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of and I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to make a secondary statement. There's a lot of bad managers out there, but the reality is the vast majority of that is due to lack of training. It's not malicious or whatever, but we are promoting people without the proper support, and they're feeling overwhelmed. So they often don't have the bandwidth. But regardless of why they're not being supportive, if that's the case, you have not wasted your time one bit by getting clear within yourself about what matters to you.
Of course not.
And I loved what you said. When's the last time I got fired up about my work? And then you talked about even looking into your personal life. Sometimes you might not be able to recall. If it's been a long time, you might have to. When was the last time I got fired up? Period.
Yeah. Well, and there's some people I've spoken to that say, I've never been fired up by my work. And that's so telling. I mean, for me, that signifies that that person has something waiting for them. Like there's something out there for that person, but they just haven't figured it out. They just haven't discovered it yet. There's so much exploration that can come for somebody that is really searching for something that will really give them energy and will really fulfill them.
Okay. So I've had my conversation with my leader, and the leader reacts negatively. You're gonna go, hey, just go sit down at your desk and shut up.
Yep.
Right.
Suck it up.
That does happen, Mark.
Oh yeah.
It does happen. Unfortunately,
I've decided to leave the job. Talk about what about exit strategy before we actually talk about how we find another job. How do we end a job well? And I'll give an example. The very first job I ever quit. I was 16 years old, and I worked for one of the fast food places. And the way my stepbrother and I, the way we quit was we threw fries in every fry basket, left him in the thing, went out, slashed the manager's tires.
The statute of limitations is over. So you can say this openly without repercussions.
Thankfully, the techniques
the specific restaurant, it was Harvey's on Donald.
So no one was harmed in this.
Right.
Yeah.
It no longer exists. It's not there. So.
Exit strategies
is that a good exit? Is that a good exit strategy?
Not particularly, no.
Yeah, no comment on that. Right? Oh my gosh.
All right, so how do I end a job well?
Yeah, so
how do I quit a job well?
So I mean, it's sometimes it's kind of like breaking up a relationship, right? Especially if it's been a relationship, like a working relationship that you've been in for a long period of time. Now, before I talk about that, I will also say I really strongly advise waiting to exit a job until you have a plan and another job. That tends to be the better way, especially financially. You want to make sure that there's some security, as opposed to just, slashing the tires and leaving like, bye-bye.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Do not try this at home.
Said, don't do.
Do not try this at home. Exactly. But a really professional, respectful way is to be clear on, briefly the reason why. And a great way to frame this, I believe a lot in reframing, I know you both do as well, is to help your leader understand that at this point in my career, I'm really clear about the things that are important to me, and especially about the work that gives me energy. So for somebody who is maybe in a job and, like they're not doing the things that really give them energy anymore, be clear about this. Like I am looking for an opportunity where I can, like back to project leadership, where I can lead large projects for, financial institutions, and position that, your next step is in line with that. If it's a situation where maybe the environment is toxic or things like that, obviously we don't want to badmouth a leader or the workplace, but bringing it back to what are your values? What's important to you? And that you're seeking out environments that really embrace those values where there's a lot of connectivity.
I love that. It's like, again, if we don't get clear about what we like and don't like, what sets our heart on fire and we call it in the 15-day life vision challenge, which literally takes you through identifying your personal core values, what you stand for as an individual. It helps you identify, we call it your happiness inventory. What are the things that give you joy, that give you energy, fire you up? What's your energy drain? What would make your energy drain list? These are the things that, they really, you can do them, but man, you're exhausted afterwards.
Yeah.
The more you do that, the more clear you get on what's important to you, then the more you can create a life that's like that. And I would assume that it sounds like if you go from one job, just leave one job because you're unhappy and take another without doing that work. You're kind of sealing your fate to just keep keep repeating that mistake.
Totally.
It's like a
relationships.
Exactly. I was going to say exactly the same thing. It's like you leave a bad relationship. You don't do the work to find out, what am I learning about myself? Did that help me? You don't do that work. You just look for someone else to take you into their arms, and you're likely going to repeat the same pattern over and over and over.
Well, and that's why trends like Rage Applied just didn't work, because there was no intentionality. There was no reflection. There was no plan. It was just, okay, I'm just going to jump over the fence and hope that the grass is greener on that side. Well, you come to realize after time, the grass is burnt on that side as well as where you left.
Right.
So, when you do that reflection, it just helps you carve out a better path. You can intentionally seek out those opportunities that line up to what's important to you. Like my why, Simon Sinek talks about the why of doing a lot of things. So my why is that I really believe that every individual can find work that gives them energy for a company that believes what they believe in. And that's my why. That's my purpose. And I really believe that for everybody.
Yeah.
I so appreciate, I think that's great. And I so appreciate that, when it comes to that exit, for a lot of people, they use that as the opportunity to dump, right? Here's all the horrible things you are, right? And versus being able to just own it for themselves. This is about me making a decision, not about you. Now, what would you suggest? What advice would you give to somebody? I don't know what the percentage is of companies that do exit interviews, right? Most don't.
Low percent.
Most don't.
Yes.
Most don't want the feedback, but some do.
Yeah, some do.
And even if they don't, would you encourage somebody to ask for an exit interview, and what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point, because it is an opportunity to share things that you're observing or experience that will enhance the working environment for everybody else. And it's kind of like asking your leader for a career development conversation. If the answer is no, then maybe that's a confirmation that this company doesn't believe what I believe in, and it's time to move on.
I've made the right decision.
Exactly. It's validation for sure.
So we want to get into in a moment talking about because we've been focusing on get clear on what matters to you, have those conversations to see if perhaps there's some room where you currently are to find more of that fulfillment. But ultimately, if not, then you're looking for something else.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many people stay in dead-end careers and in jobs that they're unhappy in? What you have these we've had a lot of conversations with leaders in transition, but you do this far more than we do in terms of those why are they staying in dead-end jobs?
Gosh, there's a number of reasons. I mean, financially, for some people, it's driving, kind of like the example that you shared. Somebody working in government, they have a pension and they feel like, if I leave this, I'm going to be giving all that up. They call it the golden handcuffs for very good reason. So financial motivations are part of it. Limiting beliefs around looking for work are also part of it. And I'll break those down into two. One is, I haven't been in a job search for a long time. I don't even know how I would start looking. So therefore, I'm not going to do it. Or the other one, there's, a whole lot of things around. Well, I really can't look for work because nobody's getting hired now and I'm older. And so ageism is a thing and nobody's going to hire me because I'm older and don't have this experience. So those limiting beliefs can sometimes keep us. And it's a fear.
Yeah.
When individuals start to look underneath that fear, what's keeping me here and what are the reasons why I can't make a move, then really amazing things can happen. That's where those roadblocks start to open up. And sometimes, when people even just do an introductory conversation with me, a number of people will say to me after, that 30 minutes as an introductory conversation was the best for me because it just helped to widen my view on what was possible. And I love hearing that because it just goes back to everybody has choices. It's just a matter of having some support and a plan to get you there.
I love that because we talk about being stuck. All of us have felt stuck at one time or another. But more and more, I'm convinced stuck is a state of mind.
Completely.
We're never as stuck as we think we are. But stuckness is a horrible place to be, because you honestly come to believe I have no options, right?
Yeah.
I have to stay.
Like it's hopeless.
It's like, it's exactly, stuck has it. But the more people understand you always have options, they're going to be uncomfortable. Like, is it hard to leave a career or leave a job? Sometimes it's a complete career change, right?
Exactly.
We talk about that. There's fear attached to that, and that's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging, but you're currently in a place where you're unfulfilled, unhappy. That is hard too. So, choose your hard. You either stay in the hard that offers no hope for change, because if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting what you've always got. The other hard offers hope that you can find a better role. You can find something more fulfilling. So it's really moving from fear to hope, right?
Well, and there's two questions that help to kind of crack through that too. One is thinking especially about a career change or even just leaving an organization. What do I have to lose by doing this? Right. And then the second one, the flip of that, what do I have to gain? Yeah. What's going to open up for me when I make a move? And when people start to think about that, they realize, you know what? Yes, there are some things that I have to lose, like maybe it's a pension, but wow, look at what I can gain. Like, not fearing or hating going to work on, like, thinking on a Sunday night, oh my gosh, I have to go to work on Monday. Being able to engage in a fulfilling way with colleagues, like working for an organization that like truly does believe what you believe in, like that there's a values alignment. They can get behind the work that they're doing. There's so much potential. But again, like, having the plan is really important. Like, you don't just wake up one day and decide, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to do something else.
Right.
You need, like, the reflection is obviously the foundation, but then the second part is figuring out how to get there. Yeah. And so that's where I look at like a 3-pronged strategy to help individuals actually look for something else. One is looking on job boards. Like, once you know what's important to you, take that to the job boards like LinkedIn, Indeed, Charity Village for not-for-profit, or just a few. But looking online is only about 20% of 100% effort to look for work.
Wow.
So the remaining 80% is all relationship based. Like, engage with some recruiters, form relationships with them. They hold the bag on some really interesting possibilities. And then the bigger one, of course, is networking. Like, reach out to people, make a list of all the organizations you're interested in, and then try to get conversations to find out what are their challenges and how can you add value. And that way you're going to uncover some really interesting possibilities for yourself.
So as soon as you said the word networking, you had a whole bunch of people that all of a sudden just curled up in a ball.
They just turned the show off.
They all of a sudden just were like, don't stop. But
they're doom scrolling.
But
now.
The panic, right? It's like, no. I'm safe behind my computer doing an online search. I think some might be afraid. They might search Indeed, but they certainly don't want to. They're not putting their information out there, because what happens if somebody sees it, right?
Yeah.
But the networking thing is terrifying for most people, whether it's for job searches or even for business development. We talk to business owners going in it. So talk about some strategies around effective networking when it comes to job searching.
So networking, I also liken to like going on vacation, which is you wouldn't go on vacation without having a plan, like just like your job search in total. So with networking, the rolling eyes or the curling in a ball, like that, the fear, right? There's a lot of fear that comes from it. When I talk to clients about, well, what's holding you back from this, I oftentimes am able to uncover with them like some key limiting beliefs, like limiting beliefs being those things that we think or we assume about an activity or a person that limits us from being able to take some steps forward.
Faulty programming.
Yeah, exactly. But these are beliefs that are like deep seated for a lot of people. So one of the key ones is, people are too busy. So I can't ask them for a conversation because they're probably going to say no. So there's a lot of rejection, fear that comes from that. The other limiting belief is, okay, well, I can't talk to, somebody senior in an organization like a CEO, an executive director, a senior vice president, because that person's too busy, leading the company. Why would they want to talk to somebody who's like many steps down the corporate ladder from me? And then the other one is, well, I don't know how to do this, and I don't have a network. So how I work with clients to help, reprogram those limiting beliefs, really reframe them, is first of all, to help them understand that over 90% of people want to help. They just want to know how they can help. So if there's 10% of your network who, ghosts you, they don't say anything, disregard the 10%, focus on the 90%, but also think about, all of the people that any one of those people can introduce you to an organization that is of interest to you. And a friend of mine in a networking group that I was part of years ago had this saying, look through your network, not at it. Meaning sometimes we limit ourselves by just looking at the people who we're immediately connected with, and we discount them. We think, I want to get into, banking. And I don't know anybody in my circle who's in banking, but yet every single person in our network knows hundreds of people, chances are. Look through the network and ask for conversations with those people. So that can help individuals just realize that, I can do this. I do have people I can reach out to. But then the other part of it is, how are you going to ask for the conversation? Be prepared. Have a impactful message that, is very clear about your intent. Don't just say, I'd love to go for coffee with you. That's, very, very vague.
You better have a reason. Especially to your point, people are busy, not too busy, but they are busy. They don't want to just get together with some person they barely know to grab coffee.
Exactly.
They need to know there's a reason, there's an ask, there's something specific you're looking for.
Yeah. So maybe it's, you want to explore a new career path. Help me understand how you got into coaching, for example, or maybe that individual works for a company that's of interest to you. In your message to them, you can say, I'm really interested in your organization. I'd love to just learn more about what it's like as a place to work and some of the key priorities that you're wrestling with. So you make that intention very clear in the meeting request, and oftentimes people will respond to that. So having the preparation is key.
And to your point, it does work. And I'll, very quickly, just 3 examples of this even that I have seen. And now it's a different situation. This was for family members, but I have over the years, I remember a bunch of years ago, my brother was ready to get out of drywall and was looking for something else to do. And he called me up and he said, help me figure something out, put a post. I'll literally just put something on Facebook, and the next day he had a job.
Bing.
My oldest daughter, same thing. She was trying to put out. She ended up with a job, federal government, that she's been now doing for 6 years.
Amazing.
And now, amazing stuff.
Yes.
And then Wendy's youngest daughter this past summer. Hey, 16-year-old kid looking for work. She's got a job that not only took her through the summer, but now she has a job that she can keep doing all through school.
It's awesome.
It took no effort for me. Now, I'm not going to do that for every single person who asks, only because
they're flooded after this episode.
You can reach Rob at rob@livingrichley.me.
No. You can reach Rob at aaron@livingrichley.me. But the reality, though, is, to your point, is when you ask somebody who is in relationship with you, who has got that connection, they're more than happy to do. They took no effort for me to do that. And if it can help, and we're afraid to ask.
We're very
and
afraid.
Yet, if we flip the script, and what if somebody came to you and asked?
Exactly.
You'd probably.
Yes.
But I think there is, though, for a lot of folks, because I agree with you. If you sit and wait, you'll be sitting and waiting a very long time. You've heard me say it on the show, probably ad nauseum. Stop waiting.
Yeah. Things are not going to fall from the sky in your lap.
Start creating the life you want. Stop waiting for it, because if you're waiting, you'll be waiting a long time.
Exactly.
But it does take that outreach. It does take stepping out of your comfort zone. And there's a lot of folks that are very uncomfortable with anything that even looks like self-promotion.
Yeah.
How do you help them overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question, because that is a barrier for a lot of people, where they feel like they're selling themselves and they don't like that feeling of selling themselves. So a way that I help them reframe that is, when you're talking to people about, what you're all about, the kinds of things that you've done in your career, think of it not in terms of selling yourself, but simply sharing the facts of your career. And the facts of your career, you have, done these different things. You've led a team of 50, or, you created this program, or you led this project. Think results and things that have been outcomes of what it is that you've been achieving, and share those. And the other thing too that helps people get past it is, people will never know about you and what you've done unless they tell you, unless you tell them, because they're not mind readers. You have to be specific about
I love that because we just had that. Of course, the episode right before this one was all about dangerous conversations.
Okay,
and one of the things was like, people cannot read your mind.
No,
like,
you have
they
to be
cannot
explicit.
possibly know. Like people do this in personal relationships. They should know better. They should know what I'm thinking. And that's problematic. So it's no different in the workplace. How will people know what you want, what you're looking for, unless you articulate it? But let me ask this question. In a lot of organizations, asking questions, asking for trouble, and even in an organization that has a healthy culture, the power dynamic between employee, it's an unbalanced power dynamic between employer and employee. Yeah. It's one thing for an employer to ask something of an employee. That's going down the chain. Now I'm using that language. I don't like that language, but people understand what I'm talking about. It's a whole other thing to find your courage and go up the chain and have a potential conversation about, listen, I'm really looking for other opportunities. I'm not really fulfilled. Like, that is not an easy conversation to have. So how do you prep people for that?
So, and that's a really great question, because it is something that, can be a stumbling block for people. And it keeps them in those jobs where they're just not fulfilled at all. So, we've been talking a lot about doing the reflection, doing that kind of preparation. So don't just go into the meeting and try to wing it. You want to make sure
that's probably not going to go very well.
No, because, then you're going to miss some things, or maybe the conversation then goes in a different direction. So it's just all about being professional and framing it. And, kind of going back to, I have done a lot of reflection over what's important to me in my career. These are the things that I would really enjoy doing, I would be really fulfilled doing. Yeah. And so, I am seeking out other opportunities, so maybe those opportunities can come within the organization. But if not, then that comes back to the exit conversation, helping a leader understand. But, back to, what do you have to lose if you don't have that conversation? What are you giving up by not doing it? Right. And that sometimes can be the gate opener.
But I love your approach. It's focusing on those I am statements. You're not going in to say, you guys aren't giving me any opportunities. No. You're a horrible employer. It's more about, I've been reflecting on what matters to me. So it's focusing on what you need and then seeing how that lands, right? Exactly. And you're not going in there to be confrontational and make demands. You're exploring.
Well, sometimes those leaders too, it's really interesting where, depending on the relationship with that leader can actually open up the door for a connection somewhere else.
Right.
So, they could be very supportive of that person's career development, we would hope. And I've seen it happen where leaders from the organization that the person is looking to leave or is leaving, they're able to make connections to other places, which is amazing when that happens.
All right. So I've stepped out of the my comfort zone. I've done my networking. I've asked for help. I'm in the process.
Is this where I'm hearing about it on the show first? That's it. We're going to
find another
Steve,
studio
we have to find another studio.
No. That's a problem.
Oh, no. Steve's coming with me.
Oh!
Hey!
Fuck you, Steve.
Now you can take all these techniques, Eric. Okay, now I got to find something new.
That's right. Exactly. I'm prepped now.
You got a plan now. There you go.
So I've reached out. I've asked. I've networked. I've asked. And somebody's connected me. And now I've got.
Ding, ding, ding.
I'm in a job interview. I'm getting ready for a job interview.
Yes.
Oh God, the dreaded job.
The dreaded job interview. How do I handle the tough questions that are about to be dropped in the interview?
Yeah.
And the potential, there's the fear of the conversation, but there's a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
That comes with that. So how do you brace or prepare yourself for that?
Well, you just said the magic word, which is to prepare.
Yeah.
I have had some clients who say, but I'm much better in conversation when I'm just in the moment.
No, you're not.
Except no, not exactly. In an interview, you really are not.
In any situation.
No.
That's what I tell people. People tell me that all the time about, I'm going to have this conversation with one of my staff members. I'm just better just wing it. No, you're not.
No, you're not. You think you are.
You're lying to yourself.
And then it's those clients that will come to me and say, you know what? I didn't get this job. Oh, well, tell me how the interview went. Oh, and so what did you do to prepare? Oh, well, I looked at the job posting and I reviewed my resume. good start. Tell me what else. So the what else comes from, first of all, forecasting the kind of questions that are going to come up. Put on your hiring manager hat and think, if I was hiring for this job, what are some of the questions that I would want to ask? And then line up all of your specific examples. I mean, some listeners will understand the STAR approach. So STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. That's a great way to frame your specific examples, because if you don't give proof and evidence that you've done the very things that the job requires, then they're going to go to another candidate who is able to do that.
You said that really fast, so I'm going to jump in
yes.
because I think that's important. So STAR stands for?
Situation, task, action, and result. So situation is the what happened, the task. It could be situation or a task. The actions are all of the things that you did to solve that problem, to launch that project, whatever the situation was. And then the result. This is the key thing. You want to leave them with the outcome.
This is the result I got. Yeah.
The positive outcome. Good. So I always recommend to clients, line up all of your examples. Think about those questions. Document, like sit at the computer and actually document some answers, because then that way, when you practice them too before the interview, all of the responses will stay up here. Now, Rob, you asked about tough questions. So somebody who is leaving one organization to join another, they will almost certainly will be asked the question, so tell me why you're looking, or tell me why you left this other organization. And if somebody has been restructured, like I've been in my past, and especially if that restructure or that dismissal came with a lot of emotion still, that it feels very raw, that emotion is going to spill out into the interview. So I do recommend preparing for this response and really practicing it like with somebody that you know and trust, to give you some good feedback and work through all the emotion, like in the comfort of your own home. Now, how to answer that question about why are you looking? That's something that confounds people. And if they haven't prepared for this, I see a lot of things happening. Either they're super brief and they don't really give much context, or they overshare, which you don't want to do.
Right.
So I like to think of this. I'm going to call it the leaving story, whether somebody is still in the job or whether they're not, because it is a story of why they're leaving and looking for opportunities. And I like to think of this as a 3-part response. So the first part is be brief and give the reason. So if you have experienced a restructure, put it in the context of, a business decision was made to eliminate your position, not a personal decision, but a business one. But then oftentimes people will stop there, but the next 2 pieces are critically important, which is piece number 2, talk about something that you loved about your last job or a result that you got that you were really proud of, because then that helps the interview to realize this wasn't a performance decision. This person did some things of value. And then part number 3 is bridge the thing that you love or the result that you got to the opportunity that you're interviewing for. So I remember for me, when I was interviewing for jobs and I had left not-for-profit, I was working with volunteers. So I would say, I love working with volunteers and, helping them get into new roles. And that's why I love this opportunity. And I'm excited to talk to you about this today, because I want to continue my work in volunteer engagement. So what you've done then is you've moved people from what happened to the future, and it's an opportunity to articulate your value.
Wow. Such great advice. I feel we could talk all day about this. Easily, right?
Yeah,
and again, lots of great wisdom being shared here. One more question for you, and then we want to talk about something exciting that you've got coming out very, very soon before we wrap up today's show. But you've given lots of great advice. As we prepare to kind of land the plane on today's conversation, what are the core messages for someone who is watching this episode? They're unhappy in their job or career, and they're looking perhaps to make a change. What are the core messages that you want to really drive home with them?
Yeah. I'd say number 1 is make sure you have a plan. Looking for work is like going on vacation. You wouldn't go on vacation without a plan. So having a plan is number 1. Number 2 is, if you don't ask, you don't get, and I'm going to apply that to networking, really. If you don't ask for conversations, you're not going to get conversations. And that really leads into the third part, because it's episode number 99, I have a quote from the great one, Wayne Gretzky.
Number 99.
Oh,
which is
wrong.
You're not the Sorry, man. Sorry.
Yes,
She was gonna say that, and then you announced that you're leaving, and
I
she
know,
said, "Screw
it's like
you."
everything's all been
It's gonna be
thrown into
Wayne
question.
Gretzky now.
Wayne instead. So what did Wayne say?
What did Wayne
the quote
say?
from Wayne Gretzky, which is, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Yeah.
And so if you just stick it out in the dead end job, or you stick it out hating your job and you don't do anything about it, you're missing out on so much. There's so much potential out there. Everybody has a choice, and maybe there's a fourth one there. This is not your forever place. I say that to clients so often, that this is like where it might be uncomfortable right now, but it won't be uncomfortable forever. You might be looking for work right now, and it might be very discouraging and taking longer than you thought, but you're not going to be unemployed forever. You will find new work. So this is not forever place. It's like one of my mantras.
So much value, and I think it's been excellent. So, what's Michelle up to?
So I am writing a book, which is very close to being published. It will be published in January of 2025. And it's really geared for individuals who are looking to explore a new path, whether it's your choice or whether it's not, like if you've lost your job and you need to find something else. But it's to help people understand basically the plan or the system to help you find new work. So, and I talk extensively in my book about the plan, looking on online job boards, recruiters and networking, but especially having that foundation of reflection. So that it's going to be a workbook and a book to read, so you can actually make all of your notations as you go through. Super excited about it, and can't wait till it comes out.
Oh, neither can we.
Yay.
I think given the number of people that we have a big community now, it's growing. And again, I'm so glad that this conversation happened today. And I know our listeners, so many are going to benefit from it. I think we're going to be recommending Michelle's book an awful lot. An awful lot.
Yeah.
Because again,
I don't even have to pay you guys to say that. Like, how amazing
we'll
is
have
that?
a conversation after. No but thank you so much for this. Was so great.
You're
so
welcome.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This has been so great. So, and I know many of you, you're really just, you want to connect with Michelle. You want to be able to just let her know how much this has been helpful for you, and maybe ask some questions, maybe even hire her as a career coach for you.
She's in the Living Richly Nation, by the way.
She is also part of the Living Richly Nation. So if you join the Facebook group, and you can find out all about the Facebook group at our website, livingrichly.me. You're also going to be able to find there the show notes for today's episodes. And in that show notes will be all of Michelle's contact information. So you can find that in there. So you're able to reach out and connect to her as well. While you're at the website, while you're at livingrichly.me, you're going to find the link for the Facebook group. You're also going to find the link for the 15-day challenge, life-giving challenge, life vision challenge. Boy, you can tell like it's the end of the day. The Life Vision Challenge, it's free, and it will help you figure out those things like what gives you energy, what depletes your energy. All of those things are part of that.
You might want to do the challenge and then connect with Michelle.
I think
Right
would be
here.
great. So make sure you go there, check all of that out. Again, thanks so much for being a part of this episode and being on the journey with us. Now get out there and live your best life.